I've always been the calm one, the one who thinks things through before acting. But today, I find myself doing something completely out of character. After 2 years together, I thought Jason was the one. He was everything I'd ever wanted, or so I thought. But life has a funny way of showing you someone's true colors. One innocent notification on his phone, one name that didn't make sense in our world, and everything started unraveling. Kara. I'd never heard of her, and Jason's reaction, quickly dismissing the message, his fingers shaking just slightly, didn't sit right. For a while, I tried to ignore the red flags. I told myself it was nothing. After all, Jason had always been so convincing, and I was always the trusting one. But those nagging doubts refused to let me go. Late nights at work, hurried phone calls, inside jokes he didn't share with me. My heart raced just thinking about it. That night, while he was in the shower, I did something I'd never done before. I checked his messages, and there it was, line after line of flirty, intimate exchanges with not just Kara, but another woman too. I wanted to scream, to confront him right then and there. But a part of me felt cunning. Why just confront him in private when the world deserved to see the real Jason? I felt a surge of adrenaline as I logged onto Reddit. Within minutes, my post was up, complete with screenshots of his texts. It was titled simply, "My boyfriend of 2 years is cheating, and here's the proof." My heart pounded as I hit post, but I couldn't deny the rush of satisfaction. The response was explosive. My phone buzzed relentlessly, comments flooding in from strangers who were outraged on my behalf. Each comment fueled me, validating my pain, my anger. Words of support poured in. "You deserve better. Expose him. What a jerk." Thousands of upvotes in hours turned my post into the day's top story, and the upvotes kept climbing. Then things took a turn. I didn't expect the story to travel beyond Reddit, but somehow, it spread. Screenshots of my post appeared on Twitter, then Instagram, even TikTok. People were dissecting every detail, analyzing each text exchange, hypothesizing about who Kara was, or if there were others. I couldn't believe how quickly it spiraled out of control. But I wasn't prepared for the next notification. A direct message from Jason? The image of his username made my stomach drop. He must have seen it. "What the hell, Lauren?" he messaged, his anger almost tangible through the screen. He demanded an explanation, calling me out for ruining his reputation and airing private matters online. But my anger was too strong to let his words shake me. I typed out a quick reply. "You ruined our relationship when you lied to me. The world deserves to know the truth." Hitting send felt like taking back some of the power he'd stolen from me. The messages stopped, but the comments kept coming, and a feeling of satisfaction settled over me. I wanted him to feel the humiliation I felt, the sting of betrayal under the public eye. What I didn't realize was how far things would go. The notifications slowed down as the night deepened, and the adrenaline rush faded. Alone in my dark bedroom, I started scrolling through the comments again. I couldn't deny a flicker of satisfaction, seeing people pick apart Jason's messages, analyzing every word with fresh eyes. But the satisfaction was tinged with something else, doubt. Did I go too far? I shook off the thought, telling myself Jason deserved this. But as I lay there, my phone buzzing every now and then with more messages, I realized this wasn't just going to be a post that died down in a day or two. My friends were sharing it. People I knew were tagging each other. This wasn't going away. My chest tightened as I realized Jason's family, mutual friends, even coworkers might see this. Then the message came. "Lauren, are you out of your mind?" It was my best friend, Megan, and from the tone, I could tell she wasn't happy. "You need to take this down." "Now," she wrote, her message blunt. "This isn't just some anonymous post. People know it's you. It's everywhere." The warning struck a nerve. Megan and I had been friends since college, and while she'd been my sounding board through countless ups and downs, this was the first time I felt judged. I typed back furiously, trying to justify my choice. "He's the one who cheated, Megan. Why should he get to walk away like nothing happened?" But even as I pressed send, her words gnawed at me. Was it worth it? Then, another notification popped up. Jason's mother, of all people, had commented on the post. My heart dropped. I didn't even dare to read her comment, but the damage was done. Families were seeing it. I wanted revenge, but maybe this was spiraling into something I hadn't intended. The next morning, I woke up to an avalanche of messages, notifications, and missed calls. My phone was practically overheating from all the activity. As I scrolled, the comments had taken on a new tone. No longer just strangers supporting me. Now people were speculating, making wild assumptions about Jason and even about me. Some accused me of oversharing, calling me petty, while others tried to figure out my entire life from the single post. My heart pounded as I noticed messages from mutual friends. I had been avoiding Jason's direct messages, but I decided to see what our friends had to say. Some were supportive, but others, not so much. "Hey, Lauren, I don't know what's going on, but maybe this isn't the best way to handle it," one friend texted. "Aren't you worried about what this will do to you both in the long run?" That text hit differently. I'd been so focused on exposing Jason that I hadn't thought about the consequences for myself. My job, my relationships, everything was suddenly under scrutiny. Then came a message from Jason's brother, Andrew. We'd always gotten along well, but now his message was dripping with anger and disappointment. "Lauren, I trusted you. This is between you and Jason. Why did you have to go public like this? You know our parents are seeing this too, right?" My stomach churned. Andrew had been like a brother to me, and now he was lumping me in as the villain. The satisfaction I felt last night was starting to sour. I could see how this was tearing everyone apart. My hands shook as I debated deleting the post. But before I could decide, another message popped up, from Jason. This time it was a long paragraph, and the words made my blood run cold. "Lauren, I can't believe you did this. You wanted revenge, fine, but you just ruined my life. And I have proof that everything you posted wasn't even the full story. If you think you're the only one who's been betrayed, you're dead wrong." He knew something. But what? I stared at Jason's message, trying to make sense of it. Proof? Betrayal? What was he talking about? My mind raced, piecing together the possibilities, but I couldn't think of anything he might have against me. I wasn't hiding any secrets. Or was I? I started to question everything. Did I somehow play a role in this unraveling, something I'd overlooked? Another message from him flashed on my screen. "You think you're so righteous, Lauren? You don't even know half of what's been going on. But don't worry, they'll find out soon enough." They? Who was they? My hands felt clammy as I realized he might be planning to twist this around, somehow make me look like the bad guy. Maybe he already had evidence. What could he be holding on to? Just as my anxiety spiked, Megan called. "Lauren, what the hell is going on? I just saw Jason's latest post on Facebook. He's not just sitting back anymore." I froze. Jason posted? What did he say? My voice trembled. "He's painting you as a crazy, controlling girlfriend who can't handle rejection," she said, her tone both shocked and frustrated. "He's making it sound like you're the one with issues, that you're obsessed with him. And it's getting traction." I could hear the regret in her voice as she continued. "Lauren, people are starting to believe him. I don't know if this was a good idea." The walls felt like they were closing in. Jason had always been charming, good with words. He was a master of manipulating emotions, a skill I'd once found endearing but now saw as dangerous. And worse yet, he was using that charm to rewrite our entire relationship narrative. He knew that online, perception was reality, and he was quickly turning everyone against me. I wasn't ready to give up, though. I knew the truth, and I wasn't about to let Jason control the story. But as I started typing out a response to defend myself, a creeping doubt settled in. How far was I willing to take this? Determined to set things right, I crafted a carefully worded response, detailing the timeline of our relationship and his betrayals, listing out each late night, each lie. I made sure to stick to the facts, hoping to come across as reasonable. I clicked post and waited, watching as the comments began pouring in. At first, people were on my side again, commending me for standing up for myself, for calling out toxic behavior. But as the hours passed, the tide shifted. People who had once supported me started questioning everything. "Are you sure you're not just overreacting? Everyone makes mistakes. Why ruin his life?" Then, another comment, this one anonymous, gave me a sick feeling. "I know you, Lauren. You're not the victim you're pretending to be." I had no idea who this person was, but the words clawed at my confidence. I wondered if it was someone we both knew, someone trying to defend Jason. I refreshed the page nervously, only to find that this anonymous account had started leaving more comments. Some were just petty insults, but others hit close to home, referencing details only someone close to me would know, details I'd shared with Jason. The comments became more intense, questioning everything about me, from my mental health to my reliability. They twisted every vulnerable moment I'd shared with Jason, moments I'd thought were private. It felt like he was trying to dismantle my credibility, piece by piece, until no one believed me. The worst part? I felt helpless to stop it. I couldn't control the narrative any longer. Each new comment chipped away at the story I'd built, transforming it into a war where the truth seemed to matter less and less. Megan messaged me again, her tone frantic. "Lauren, he's making you look crazy. Maybe you should walk away from this, take down your post, and move on. This isn't worth it." But walking away felt like letting him win. I couldn't let Jason manipulate people into thinking I was the problem. I had come this far. I wasn't backing down now. With a newfound resolve, I decided to dig deeper. If Jason wanted to turn this into a public battle, then so be it. I started going through my phone, combing through every saved text message, every photo, every detail I could find that would prove he was the one in the wrong. If he wanted war, I'd give him war. Hours passed as I gathered my evidence. I saved old screenshots of sweet messages he'd sent me while supposedly on business trips, checked receipts from dinners he claimed were just with coworkers, and even found a few selfies we'd taken around the time he started acting distant. In every image, I could see hints of his disinterest, his mind elsewhere. The signs were all there, hidden in plain sight, and I'd ignored them for far too long. Finally, I posted again, adding a detailed timeline of his lies, backed up with photos and timestamps. I hit post and felt a rush of grim satisfaction. Now, I'd thrown down the gauntlet. There was no way he could talk his way out of this. The comments started coming in, fast and furious. Some people praised my bravery, saying I was right to call him out, that more people should expose cheaters. But others, they weren't as supportive. "This is obsessive," one comment read. "Maybe he cheated because you're this controlling?" My hands shook as I scrolled through similar comments, doubting myself, wondering if I'd gone too far. Jason, of course, took it a step further. His next post was an all-out attack, claiming that I'd been snooping, that I was obsessive, that I'd created all of these stories because I couldn't handle being alone. He twisted everything, making himself the victim. I felt trapped, as if the very reality of our relationship was slipping out of my control. But just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, a new message arrived. It was from someone I hadn't expected, Kara. My heart stopped. Why was she reaching out? I hesitated, staring at the message from Kara, my finger hovering over it, afraid of what she might say. Was she reaching out to defend him? To add insult to injury? With a deep breath, I opened the message. "Hey, Lauren. I don't know if you'll read this, but I wanted to reach out. I saw the post on Reddit and everything that followed. I had no idea about you, and I'm honestly as blindsided as you are." My heart raced as I continued reading. Kara explained that Jason had told her he was single, that he was just coming out of a toxic relationship with a woman who couldn't let go. He'd painted me as some obsessive ex, still clinging to hope while he moved on with her. She claimed she hadn't known he was in a relationship at all. It was infuriating yet somehow validating. Jason had woven this whole web of lies, manipulating not just me but her as well. She mentioned how she started noticing inconsistencies, that he'd disappear for days at a time with no explanation. And then she'd see my Reddit post. "I'm sorry for what you're going through," she wrote. "He made me believe things about you that weren't true. I feel sick knowing I trusted him." I felt a strange sense of relief reading her words. It wasn't just me he'd lied to, not just me he'd manipulated. I responded, thanking her for reaching out, even if it didn't erase what she'd been part of. A part of me wanted to hate her, but another part knew she was just as much a victim as I was. As I sat there, a new idea formed. If Jason wanted to keep manipulating the story, maybe Kara and I could turn the tables together. I sent a quick reply. "What do you say we confront him together?" She agreed, almost instantly. We arranged to meet up that weekend to plan. For the first time since all of this began, I felt like I had some control over the narrative again. The days leading up to our meeting crawled by. My mind raced with thoughts of what Jason's reaction would be, how he'd try to wriggle his way out of this one. I wasn't sure what to expect from Kara either. Part of me feared she'd back out at the last minute, or worse, try to throw me under the bus. When Saturday arrived, I was nervous. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe far from anywhere Jason might run into us. Kara arrived before I did, sitting at a small table in the corner. She looked as tense as I felt, fidgeting with her coffee cup as she stared out the window. I took a deep breath and walked over. "Lauren?" she asked, looking up as I approached. "That's me," I replied, taking the seat across from her. We exchanged a quick, awkward smile, both of us unsure how to navigate the strange situation we were in. Here we were, two women who had unknowingly shared the same man, both feeling the sting of betrayal in our own ways. We spent the first few minutes getting the details straight. Kara shared screenshots, messages that mirrored mine in chilling similarity. He'd used the same lines, the same promises, even some of the same pet names. The realization of how methodical he'd been left us both stunned. "I can't believe he did this to both of us," Kara said, her voice shaky but determined. "He made me think I was special, that I was the only one he wanted." "He told me the same things," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The anger that had simmered in me for days began to burn hotter, fueled by the hurt in her eyes. Together, we formed a plan. Confronting him online had already backfired once, so we decided on something different. We'd corner him in person, somewhere he wouldn't be able to dodge or lie his way out. And with both of us there, he wouldn't be able to manipulate the story to fit his agenda. We decided on a location, a park where he often went for his evening jog. We'd catch him there, together, and we'd record everything. It would be a moment of reckoning he wouldn't be able to control, no matter how hard he tried. As we stood up to leave, I felt a strange kinship with Kara. We were two strangers brought together by pain, united by a shared sense of betrayal and the need for closure. And now, we were ready to face the man who'd torn both our lives apart. The day of our confrontation felt surreal. I was nervous, my mind racing with every possible outcome. Would he deny it all? Try to turn Kara against me? But every time my nerves spiked, I remembered the look in Kara's eyes at the cafe. She had that same determination, that same fire to finally put an end to his lies. We arrived at the park early, each of us scanning the entrance, our stomachs twisted with anticipation. Kara had brought her phone, ready to record, and we'd agreed that I would be the one to approach him first, setting the stage before she stepped in. It was a risky plan, but it felt right, like the only way to confront him and make sure he faced the truth from both of us. Then, there he was. Jason jogged down the path, looking as carefree as ever. The sight of him, so relaxed, so oblivious, filled me with a fresh wave of anger. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked toward him. He saw me and slowed to a stop, his face shifting from surprise to guarded annoyance. "Lauren, what are you doing here?" "Just needed to talk," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. He glanced around nervously, clearly thrown off by the unexpected encounter. "Couldn't this have waited?" "I'm kind of busy." "Oh, I'm sure you are," I replied, keeping my tone as casual as I could manage. "But I thought you'd want to explain a few things in person. You know, since you're so good at that." A flicker of panic crossed his face, but he quickly smoothed it over with a laugh. "Lauren, if this is about that post—" "Oh, it's not just about that," I interrupted, the anger breaking through my calm. "It's about the lies, Jason. About Kara." His face went pale at the mention of her name, and in that instant, Kara stepped out from behind the tree where she'd been waiting, her phone held high, recording every second of his stunned reaction. "Hello, Jason," she said, her voice icy. "Care to explain why you told me you were single?" The look on his face was priceless, an unfiltered mix of shock, fear, and, most satisfyingly, guilt. He stammered, his eyes darting between the two of us, clearly scrambling for an escape. But there was none. We had him cornered, and for once, he couldn't hide. Lauren, Kara, come on, he finally managed, his voice pleading. This is all a misunderstanding. Funny, because we have all the messages, Jason. The dinners, the nights you claimed to be working late. All of it, I replied, my voice shaking with anger. Kara stepped closer, her eyes blazing. You used the same lines on both of us. Made us both believe we were the only ones. Jason's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, scrambling to piece together a defense that wasn't there. For the first time, he was out of moves. Jason's face twisted with desperation as he realized there was no talking his way out of this one. His smooth, charming facade was crumbling right in front of us, and it was deeply satisfying to watch. He tried to muster a weak smile, as if somehow he could charm his way through this confrontation. But we weren't having it. Look, I never meant for this to get so complicated, he stammered, his eyes darting between me and Kara. You both mean so much to me, and I got confused. Kara scoffed, lowering her phone just enough to shoot him a disgusted glare. Confused? You made two women believe you loved them, lied to us, and fed us both some sob story about how you were being misunderstood. That's not confusion, Jason. That's manipulation. The word hit him like a slap. He shifted uncomfortably, his face flushing red as he tried to regain control. It wasn't like that, Kara. Lauren, you know me. You know I wouldn't do something like this on purpose. I could feel my anger rising, bubbling over. Oh, I know you, Jason. I know exactly who you are now. You used me. You used both of us, and you thought you'd get away with it. He stepped closer, his tone softening, trying to coax sympathy from me. Lauren, please. Think about everything we had. Don't throw it all away because of one mistake. Mistake? I repeated, incredulous. This wasn't a mistake, Jason. You planned this, kept it hidden, lied over and over. This was no accident. Kara lifted her phone higher, her voice firm and unyielding. Save the excuses. We're recording this, so go ahead. Keep lying if you want. We're not the only ones who are going to see this. He froze, his gaze locked on her phone, the fear in his eyes unmistakable. For the first time, he seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. His reputation, his carefully crafted image, all of it was on the line. Desperation seeped into his voice. Look, I'll do anything. Just don't post this. We can work this out. I'll make it right. But Kara and I exchanged a look, a silent agreement that his words meant nothing anymore. He had his chance to make it right, and he chose deceit instead. I don't think there's any fixing this, Jason, I said, my voice cold. Not after everything you put us through. In that moment, I saw his shoulders slump, his confidence shattered. For once, he was completely powerless, and he knew it. Jason looked at us, his face a blend of anger and humiliation. He had always been the one in control, the smooth-talking charmer who could weave his way through any problem. But now, faced with the undeniable truth and two women he had wronged, he had nothing left to say. The silence hung heavy between us, each of us acutely aware of the consequences waiting to unfold. Kara broke the silence first, her voice unwavering. So, what's your plan now, Jason? You going to keep lying to everyone else? Because we have everything we need to expose you for who you are. Jason's expression hardened, a flicker of anger in his eyes. You really think this is going to help either of you? Going public with this? It'll just make you look bitter and petty, he sneered, grasping at any last shred of power he could find. People will say you're just jealous or obsessed. You'll only end up making fools of yourselves. I felt a surge of fury rise up, but I kept my voice steady. We're not the ones who lied, Jason. This isn't about being bitter. It's about accountability. You don't get to walk away from this pretending nothing happened. He scoffed, but I could see the fear behind his bravado. He was bluffing, trying to intimidate us into silence. But we weren't backing down. Kara stepped closer, her phone still recording. You don't scare us, Jason. Maybe for once, it's your turn to deal with the consequences. Jason's confidence visibly wavered, and for a moment, he looked almost vulnerable. Fine, he said, his voice softer now, desperate. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't ruin me over this. I took a breath, the anger and betrayal simmering beneath the surface. You already ruined everything, Jason. We're just making sure everyone knows the truth. With that, I turned away, and Kara followed suit. The last glimpse I had of him was a man who had finally, truly, lost control. We walked away, leaving him standing there alone, his lies exposed, his power gone. As we reached the edge of the park, Kara looked at me, her face a mixture of relief and exhaustion. What now? I shrugged, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Now? Now we start to move on. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. Jason's lies no longer held me, and I could finally breathe again. Walking away from Jason felt surreal, like stepping out of a bad dream. Part of me kept waiting for him to come running after us with more lies, more manipulations. But he didn't. He just stood there, a shadow of the person I once thought I knew, his world unraveling right before his eyes. Kara and I found a nearby bench and sat in silence, letting the moment sink in. There was an odd comfort in being beside her, a woman who'd been hurt in the same way, who understood the tangled mess of betrayal we'd just waded through. Finally, Kara broke the silence. I don't know if I feel relieved, or if I just want to scream. She let out a bitter laugh. How did we let someone like him do this to us? I thought about it, all the red flags I'd ignored, all the times I'd chosen to trust him even when my gut told me something was wrong. I guess he was just good at playing the part, I replied. He made us feel like we were the crazy ones. And the sad thing is, I think we wanted so badly to believe him. Kara nodded, her expression softening. I can't believe I ever thought he loved me. I thought I was special to him. She shook her head, as if to clear away the last traces of illusion. Turns out, he just didn't know how to love anyone. There was a profound sadness in her words, a sadness I felt in my own heart. Jason had used love like a tool, manipulating our emotions to serve his needs. But I wasn't going to let him have that power over me anymore. Neither of us would. So, she said, her voice stronger, what's next for you? Are you going to put it all out there online? I considered it. Part of me wanted to upload that final recording, let everyone see the real Jason. But another part of me felt exhausted by the whole thing. Exposing him had been cathartic, but I didn't want to live my life tethered to him or his lies. Maybe, I replied, still mulling it over. But maybe not. I think it's enough that he knows we both see him for who he really is, and that he doesn't control us anymore. Kara smiled, a hint of relief in her expression. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm done letting him live rent-free in my head. We both laughed, a real, genuine laugh that felt like the first step in finally moving forward. The following days were strange. I expected to feel haunted by the confrontation, as if Jason's presence would linger in my mind, feeding the anger and hurt he'd caused. But, surprisingly, I felt lighter, like I'd finally broken free from a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. Kara and I kept in touch. In a way, she became the unexpected silver lining of this mess, a friend who understood the pain without needing an explanation. We shared updates on how we were each moving forward, taking small steps to reclaim our lives. Meanwhile, Jason tried to reach out a few times, mostly through mutual friends who seemed torn on where their loyalty lay. He'd crafted a carefully worded apology message to me, filled with vague excuses about how he'd lost himself and made mistakes. But it was all too little, too late. One evening, a message from one of his closest friends, Mike, appeared on my phone. Hey, Lauren. Just wanted to say that I saw everything, and I'm really sorry for what you went through. I knew Jason was complicated, but I didn't know he was capable of all this. His message was a small but meaningful validation. People were starting to see Jason's true colors, and I no longer felt like I had to prove anything to anyone. I thanked Mike and decided to leave it at that. Kara had gone through a similar experience. A few people from Jason's circle reached out to her too, expressing surprise and disbelief at what he'd done. I feel like I'm watching his whole world collapse, she said during one of our calls, sounding almost amused. And honestly, I don't feel bad for him one bit. Neither did I. We'd both been caught in his web, victims of his lies. But now that web was unraveling, and Jason was the one tangled in it. It was poetic justice. As the days went by, I felt a sense of peace returning. I found myself smiling more, even laughing at things that had once felt heavy. Jason's grip on my life was fading, and in its place, I felt something new, a chance to rebuild, free from deceit. And for the first time, I was genuinely excited about what lay ahead. Weeks turned into months, and life slowly returned to normal. I found joy in the small things again. Dinner with friends, weekends exploring new hobbies, quiet evenings with a good book. The drama with Jason felt like a distant memory, something from a different life. I'd never expected to move on this quickly, but facing the truth and taking control of my own story had brought me peace. Kara and I remained friends, bonded by the strange ordeal we'd gone through together. She was healing in her own way, rebuilding her confidence and focusing on her career. We joke about how we'd never have met if it hadn't been for Jason's betrayal, and we both agreed that he'd done us an accidental favor by exposing his true self. Jason, on the other hand, wasn't faring as well. Stories trickled down through friends, tales of his reputation taking hits in both personal and professional circles. People didn't trust him like they once had. More than one mutual friend had cut him off after hearing what he'd done. I didn't take pleasure in his downfall, but I also didn't feel any sympathy. He was living the consequences of his own actions. One day, as I was browsing social media, I saw a quote that struck a chord. Sometimes, losing someone isn't a loss, it's a gain. It perfectly summed up my experience with Jason. Losing him had felt devastating at first, but in hindsight, it was the best thing that could have happened. He'd shown me what I deserved, and more importantly, what I didn't deserve. As I closed my phone, I felt a rush of gratitude. For everything. For the confrontation, for the courage to stand up, for the new friendships, and for the peace that had replaced the pain. My life was no longer wrapped up in lies or deceit. It was mine again, and I had full control. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. I was finally free. Free to move forward, free to heal, and free to find something real. And for the first time in a long time, that future looked incredibly bright. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you've ever faced something similar or have thoughts on the story, feel free to share below. Remember, life has a way of leading us to better places, even through the hardest moments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories of resilience, redemption, and growth.